My name is Matt Gerard. I am passionate about aviation, especially old World War II aircraft, and so now I'm building a half-scale P-40 Warhawk replica plane. My passion for World War II aircraft started as a kid. I loved aviation. My old man was in the Air Force. He wasn't a pilot, but he was in the Air Force. So we traveled the whole country going to every Air and Space Museum, World War II museum, anything involving aviation that you can think of, pretty much all over the entire country. It just kind of spiraled from there, and now I'm 100 and something hours into building an airplane in my garage. I started construction about, I'd say, 6 to 9 months ago. The majority of the project so far has been waiting for materials. I think it took me 6 months to get lumber. All of the construction that I've got documented and recorded has probably been in the last 2 months. Most of it was, the initial stuff was I got metal material right away. That was super easy to locate in source. And then from there it was chop saw, grinders, all that good jazz, trying to figure out how to bend it, learning stuff I've never done before, screwing up more than I ever got right before, you know, I hit final products and I was like, all right, I can keep this. I like this. It's 5 o'clock in the morning, I wake up, roommate's gone, cool. I'm gonna go build an airplane for a couple hours, go into work. I get irritated at work, go home, work on the airplane, because that's kind of my functional disconnect from running my regular business, is kind of working on that, so that kind of adds to it. So the basic gist of the build process of this is they start at the basic frame components. So it's an 18 and a half foot long airplane when all is said and done. So we start with literally the long stretches of the main fuselage. So we start right out of there, right out of the gate. And then it's all the side structure to get the two sides built like a box. Because it's basically assembled like a big box that shrinks down to a smaller component in the back. So we start with the sides and the main fuselage construction, then we move on to the wing structures and the wing supports. Once that's all done, it moves on to the actual, the outer shell. So the way this one's built is it's a wooden frame internally, it's wrapped around in foam, and that foam gets covered in fiberglass. So the outer skin of the entire plane will end up being fiberglass, then painted over the top of it when everything is done. Big thing is once the frame, the box frame is done, then we can kind of move on to the next connections. I can either add the foam, do the fiberglassing, I can add the engine, then I can start adding the hookups for all the wings and the coverings and all of that stuff. And anything's kind of the sky's the limit for what I want to work on and move from there. The total build time is, the people that have built them in the past project anywhere from 800 to 1,000 hours, depending on your skill level and experience doing this sort of thing. I'm gonna guess probably closer to 1,000 hours, but when I have materials and things to actually specifically work on, I'm working on it all the time. I'm putting 4 or 5 hours in a day, so I'll put 25 hours in a week without really missing a beat just because there's so much to do. I'm hoping if I can keep the current pace up in material, I don't get lagged down in materials, probably another 2 years, this thing will be completed and ready for the testing process and the testing phase. The main power plant, my motor for this airplane, is going to be a store-bought, pre-established, certified aviation engine. I know there are a lot of guys that are out there that do things with like automotive motors and make the conversions. The problem is they're incredibly unreliable and unsafe and for the most part untested, and they're not built for what aviation engines are. So I'm just going to bypass that completely and just stick with a dedicated aviation engine that's tested, that's used in experimental home-built aircraft all the time, because the whole project inside and out done, construction materials, is probably going to be, depending on what motor I end up making the final decision on, anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000 will probably go into the entire aircraft as a whole. And it'll all be brand spanking new if I go that route, or if I can find used engines, because that's going to be the most expensive component. That'll save me a ton of money on the long end of the build just to make this a functional and foreseeable project. So, I have never seen a fully constructed P-40 from this company, and because I found out, I am the first person in the United States to construct one. They have like 18 different kits of varying aircraft. I've seen the Fokker 190s, I've seen a bunch of the Mustangs, the Spitfires are out there, there's a bunch of those that are flying out there, the F4U is out there, a bunch of those have been built over the years, but I was just at Oshkosh last week when they had the big air show, and I actually met a gentleman who's building a carbon fiber version of the 190. And we got to chatting about it because I've been kind of chatting with a couple people that I can find that have built these to try to get some building advice and some mentorship with this. And I finally met them for the first time, and he's like, "You're the only one. The only one that's ever been built prior to that is the guy who built the plans in Australia. He had one in Fluid. You're going to be the first one that's actually reproducing it from the printed plan." So I'm like, I don't know if that's really cool or really stupid, but we're going to find out. At the end of it, there's going to be a story to tell no matter what. So during this building process, the whole thing has been an education. I've always been a hands-on guy. I can do a little of everything, but this level of woodworking and construction I've never done. The adhesives, dealing with the epoxies is a whole new animal. Learning about the temperatures, learning about the structural integrity of things. I've gotten very good at fitting joints very, very closely now in a way that I never would have even thought about before. Those woodworking skills are completely out of my comfort zone. Metal crafting, building brackets, because I've already done some of the bracket construction for like landing gear and some of the other parts. Never ever touched anything like metal crafting or metalwork before. Now I'm sitting there with a hacksaw and a grinder and a bunch of other things, cutting stuff out and trying to figure that out and bending it. And I mean, learning how to weld. Conveniently for me, my roommate's a commercial welder. He's been welding skyscrapers for years, so he is actively in the process of teaching me how to weld. We picked up a couple of welding rigs just because it's one of the things we do for my business too, is we do some minor machine shop stuff, so we have that kind of set aside for that anyway. As his added bonus, I get to learn how to do it, so I will be building and fashioning everything. The most enjoyable thing has been the problem-solving component of it, because there are rough directions on how to build this, but they're very, very rough and very incomplete, and there's very few step-by-step anything with this build process. So I have a book of a guy who built an F4U, and he goes through everything in a decent amount of detail. I read that 3 times now, and then there's the actual build manual that kind of walks you through the steps, the process, everything that goes with that. There's more vague than specific in all of this. When you should fit stuff, when you should drill stuff. They're not always real specific on it. So 90% of the stuff that I've kind of had to figure out was literally rolling out plans and sheets of plans everywhere in my house, everywhere in my garage, in my kitchen, my bedroom. And then having to go from one to the other going, okay, this goes here, and this goes here, and this connects here, and all right, I don't know what this piece does. And I'd have to go through 6 other prints just to figure out what that actual purpose is, how important is it, and do I need to prep something else to work in conjunction with it? Because that's something I've been running across is, oh, I installed that already, but I shouldn't have because I actually have to drill holes in that properly. I can't put that in a drill press anymore. And it's just been a process of, okay, every time I take a step that I haven't confirmed yet, I got to take probably 1 or 2 or even 3 hours going through different plans to kind of figure out what's going on. But that can kind of have half of the fun is trying to put the puzzle together and going through it. And that probably sounds terrifying to normal people, thinking that I have to fly in this someday and I'm kind of having to figure all that out. But the level of knowledge I've picked up just in the short time I've been doing this of how these individual systems work, how they connect, has been incredibly helpful. And I'm getting my pilot's license at the same time right now over in DeKalb, and I've definitely found that the construction side of it and learning the interior and the workings and how stuff connects has directly translated to what I'm doing when I'm actually working with the actual aircraft and how it performs and how it behaves and pre-flighting it and making sure things work and don't work, because now I know, okay, these connections, these things I'm looking at, this is why I'm supposed to be paying attention to them, while somebody who doesn't come from that side of it's going, I'm looking, I don't know exactly what I'm looking for, but I've definitely been able to kind of connect those dots just because of this discovery period or this learning period. Once the testing on this thing's done and I can actually just go out and fly it and take it places, I just like the flexibility. It's a small plane, so I'm still gonna be weather dependent to a degree, but you know, I own my own business. And I don't have to be there for the day-to-day part of it. I can flex everything, and 90% of what I can do remotely anyway. I like the idea of being able to pick up and go. I have property down in Tennessee as well that I love to go visit. It's a 10.5-hour car ride. If I can get this going, if the speeds are gonna be what I'm expecting based on the motor I'm hoping to put in it, that's gonna go from a 10-hour drive to a 4-hour flight, which will be huge. Part of the reason I got into doing this and then filming it and documenting it too is because I want to make it approachable to the average person. I am by no means a genius. I am by no means a fine cabinet maker or great at anything construction or anything like that. But I do like the idea of showing somebody, hey, you know, you might not need to buy a brand new $1 million, what do you call it, or $80,000 airplane or a $100,000 airplane, because planes 2 years ago that cost $35,000 are going for 80 grand right now or more. It's crazy the way that market is kind of bouncing all over the place. But if you realize if you really want to do it and you're passionate about it and you've been going to Oshkosh every year forever and you're like, oh, I can't afford it, I can't do this. Yeah, the cost of entry to getting the license is expensive, but at the same token, the ownership, the maintaining the plane and creating it, there's a million kits out there, there's a million plans out there, and I'm a regular guy that has no background in this. I used to do a little tuning on cars when I was younger, when I was still racing, so I'm not afraid of an engine. I'm not afraid of getting my hands dirty, but that's kind of the thing is, I want to show people that are interested in this and want to get into it and are stayed because of the cost of entry. I want them to realize that they shouldn't be scared of that. If you're willing to get your hands dirty, you're willing to do the work, this is completely open to you. And I'm going for a bigger, faster, not necessarily bigger, but a faster airplane. There are motors that cost like $12,000 to get into it. There are aircraft that are made right here in the Quad Cities that brand new are going for like 18 grand. They're smaller light sports, but you can fly those. There's actually cheaper licensing associated that gets you into aviation. If you're willing to build them yourselves, the cost goes down. If you're willing to go really crazy and get blueprints off the internet and build them, especially if you can find a company that a bunch of these have been built and assembled and you know that you're not going to die in a fiery wreck, you can do it as long as you're willing to put in the time and put in the effort. And if you're spending your days on YouTube watching other guys do it, stop being the one that's watching the guys on YouTube and start being the guy that's making the videos and building the aircraft and becoming a part of aviation history as opposed to somebody who's just reading about it. The name of my YouTube channel is Downrange Warbirds. Quick Google search will take care of that. I've got a QR code and business cards for it now too. And then TikTok is the same thing. It's Downrange Warbirds. Quick search should pop it up, I think. I don't think anybody's got anything even remotely close to that name-wise. But yeah, that's kind of an ongoing labor of love too.